In May of 2022, King Duncan was abducted from his home and was eventually found behind a dumpster after being missing for 18 hours. Almost immediately, his owners set up a GoFundMe to move him to a new home and to cover the costs of the medical bills, which raised just shy of 14,000 Canadian dollars. The Instagram account returned to regular posting for a few months, including the owner's other cat Doris on the page, until August 16th, where the almost daily post turned to radio silence. After almost a month, this post appeared. He's okay. No one else is though, unfortunately. Please don't message me on my personal account. We've been through some deaths lately and it's not cool. Naturally, this raised everyone's concerns. Is Doris okay? Doris okay? Hope things get better soon for you and that Doris is okay. After this, there were only 2 more posts on the King Duncan account. We miss you guys. And the final. This left the followers for the account worried, confused, and angry. Is Doris okay? Why has there been radio silence on the page about Duncan? And what happened to the $14,000 that was raised to cover Duncan's medical bills and move them to a new home? Many are saying that this was all part of one big scam and that the abduction that led to the GoFundMe didn't even happen. This seems very sketchy. The timeline of the story and how she keeps panicking anytime someone asks her to post the entire story or about the perp. There were oddities in Jen's story, the owner of the cats. For example, why was there no CCTV footage from her apartment complex of the incident, or even pictures of the damage where the intruder broke in? I did manage to find old posts of Jen looking for Duncan on local lost and found Facebook pages, which does substantiate the fact that Duncan was lost. A later Instagram post also shows an invoice from the vet that showed that Duncan had broken some ribs at this time, further corroborating the abduction story. However, something doesn't add up here. Just 2 days later, another post appeared on the King Duncan page, one that would share an obvious contradiction in the reasoning for the GoFundMe. Also, since you're so invested, police are involved and something is in place which I can't say. Legal issues can't be posted on Instagram, obviously, but let's say someone is being held responsible. If the person responsible for Duncan's abduction was arrested or there's a restraining order out, then why do they need to move? How are they still extremely unsafe, as the GoFundMe states? There could easily be more to it than that, than what I'm just seeing at face value, but more and more inconsistencies started to arise. As for the GoFundMe, I am trying to end it as we received way more than we expected, but the GoFundMe app is not that easy to navigate. So naturally, I started a GoFundMe to test this. So let's add a cover photo. Nice. Title. Something like that. Well, that setting button probably a good start. There's a manage button here. That's probably good. I want to update. Okay, that doesn't help. Settings. Good start. Settings. Okay. Haha. Allow my fundraiser to accept donations. All right, let's tick that off. Publish changes. Okay. And done. But the GoFundMe app apparently is not that easy to navigate. It is. Now, this Instagram post was made 6 days after the GoFundMe was set up, and if you're able to take a guess at how long it took to stop accepting donations, when do you think it's still open? You can still donate to it to this day, which to me shows that Jen was clearly okay with receiving more than the $5,000 goal, and there's nothing wrong with that on a GoFundMe, but only if the money is going to the place that you said it is. The GoFundMe stated, "Moving is very expensive, and Duncan will be having more medical bills upcoming due to his trauma and injuries."
My cat's now on medication for anxiety and depression.
I'm really, really sorry, Nikki. I'm really, really, really sorry. I didn't realise that it was... I'm sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Okay, you know, that clip's maybe not from the story, but it's funny and it's kind of relevant. Back to something serious. We are starting this GoFundMe to help keep Duncan and Doris safe and ensure nothing like this will ever happen again. Since this goal was exceeded, Duncan's owner said they would do this with the money. We've decided to use what is necessary for moving expenses and medical bills, and then we'll be donating to local shelters. So basically, costs for vet bills, costs for moving, and the rest goes to local shelters. All seems to make sense if it was true. A comment on that same post asked if they'd found a new place, and when can they move. This is where suspicions start to arise. Jen replied, "We are looking, nothing seems to be available until July. The housing crisis in Halifax is insane. For reference, this means that they wouldn't be moving for another 2 months." So let's check. I found flats in Halifax. There's 24 available. Scroll through, all pretty standard stuff. However, of course, this wasn't back in June. This is the current one. So let's see if we can use our Wayback Machine. Ooh, and look at that. One in 2022. And it's in June. Yeah, that's perfect. 40 apartments available. Interesting. Price ranging 800 $1,000. Yeah, there's lots available. 1 month later, on the 7th of June, Jen posted an update saying, "Still looking for a new place, guys, but there's still not much available." Now remember, the reason they are moving is because their cats are in danger. It's urgent, yet there's not much available, which to me means there is something available, and surely that would be better than keeping your animals in danger, right? Well, another month later, and another post. We are on wait lists for apartments, but the earliest is September. That's how insane the housing crisis is. Now, to me, this is believable. Housing in 2022 in the UK has been insane, so I'm sure it's not been so stable in Canada either. But come September 2022, and no word of moving apartments. From the posts on the King Duncan page, it's clear they're still in the same apartment, as you can see the same flooring. Now, since Jen and the cats were reportedly moving for their immediate safety, staying in the same place for 5 months really doesn't align with this story. Add on to that the fact that Jen said that the person responsible for Duncan's abduction was being held responsible. Naturally, people started to see through the cracks and wonder where their donations had actually gone to. How's that new apartment? You should do the right thing and give back all the money you scammed people out of by tugging on their heartstrings and using your poor cat as an object to scam. It's a shame. Not only was there a social media account for Duncan, but Doris had her own page that was relatively active, posting around once a week for 2 years. Both Duncan and Doris were very overweight. At their peak weight, they were 28 and 22 pounds. Now for reference, the healthy weight range for an adult cat is somewhere between 8 to 15 pounds. Of course, there's many claims that the owners fattened these cats up in order to make money off them and so they could be famous on the internet. Now, as a cat lover myself, I'd hate for that to be the case, so I dug deep to check. Jen got Duncan around 2015, and as you can see, he was significantly smaller back then. He was a big cat, no doubt, but nowhere near the size that he was in the more recent posts. There's even a few comments where people have gone back and looked at these older pictures saying how skinny Duncan was in 2015. The page didn't really post consistently until about 2020, 5 years later, but by that time you can see how much bigger Duncan had gotten, and that Doris was also a tank. Jen claims that when they got Duncan, the vet put him on a weight loss diet, but it was problematic because he had PICA, the behavioural urge to eat non-edible materials. They claimed that Duncan would start eating bits of plastic, which could make him choke, so they had to feed him all of this food and fatten him up. Now, this story could be true. I wasn't there, and I can't say for sure, but it sure is convenient that there's 2 dangerously obese cats in the same household that gained weight while living with Jen. It's clear that both Duncan and Doris gained an extortionate amount of weight without social media fame, but in case you've never owned a cat, you can control what they eat, so yes, the weight gain is down to the owners. Which ties me back into the mysterious "he's okay, no one else is, unfortunately" post. A few weeks prior to this, the posts on Doris's account suddenly stopped, and shortly after that, the posts also stopped on Duncan's page, leaving a final message of some sunflowers. Up until that point, the posts had been sporadic and cryptic, which left many of the followers extremely worried about the well-being of the 2 cats. Poor Duncan and Doris, we don't even know if they're alive anymore. Where are Duncan and Doris? Hope y'all are doing okay, getting worried. However, some time passed and there was still no update, and naturally, people started to get angry. She scammed me out of $200. I simply asked for an update on how the house hunting was going. We all got played. Now, this is where the story takes a bit of a weird turn. Up until this point, the latest public post from the cats ended in October of 2022. However, Jen does have an Instagram account that she's been posting on since then. The problem is, it's private. I'm blurring the name as I don't want people spreading hate on our page, as that's not really the point of this video, but I can't get access to the posts here. I've tried following her, I've DM'd the page, I've DM'd Duncan's page, and I've contacted multiple people in the comments to get an update on what's happened here, but I've had radio silence and I can't see what she's been posting on this account. With that in mind, what I'm about to say is based entirely on reading these comments on some of Duncan's posts, which very well could be fabricated. Update of what seems to happen. She posts a lavish lifestyle on her private account while she doesn't post any recent pics of Duncan. Duncan has probably passed away and all of her stories of him losing weight were a lie. He always looked the same. I'm very confused as to what's going on, but I did find old photos of Duncan on her private account. He was a normal weight, he was healthy when he came to her care. I was always under the impression she was adopted him when he was obese. Turns out he gained all of that weight from living with her. Jen constantly posts selfies in what looks like the same apartment she was living in before. She didn't move, so what happened to all that money? We deserve an explanation. Jen, so many of us stood by you, believed your story, donated and shared your GoFundMe. I thought it was odd how much money she got and how she still didn't close the campaign sooner. How can you accept thousands of dollars from your followers, then ghost us? This isn't okay. When you consider how much money the King Duncan Instagram account could have made, especially since it sold merch, it almost doesn't make sense to take off with the that's the wrong GoFundMe. With the $14,000 from the GoFundMe. Sadly, I believe the reason that these accounts stopped posting is that Duncan and Doris are unfortunately no longer with us. This is purely speculation, but it wouldn't be surprising given their extremely unhealthy body weight. I genuinely hope this isn't the case and I'm proven wrong, but all signs point to the sad conclusion. I want to remind everyone not to spread hate to this person or the cat's pages. I just personally think that we should have an answer for what happened to this money and also, of course, what happened to Duncan and Doris.